Happy Friday afternoon, everybody. The first Friday in December. And we are here at Wayfind Marketing going through a series for the last couple of months called Navigating Opportunity. And so if you've had a chance to tune in for any of our previous live streams, or maybe you've caught the podcast, we've had the opportunity to meet and talk with a number of different business leaders, nonprofit leaders, and we've had some really great conversations about how people are navigating 2020. And so today we're going to continue that conversation. We're actually going to wrap up this series. We're going to be talking with Shea Peffly, who is with Menagerie Coaching, and she's certified as a professional EOS implementer. And I've known Shea for probably the last year and a half, and have been greatly encouraged by knowing her and getting to work with her. And so before I bring her on, I just want to remind you, the whole point of this series is really to do two things, and that's to encourage and equip you. And so we know that running a business, running a nonprofit is hard, just in a good year. And so this year, with all its challenges, has just made it that much more challenging. And so we want to make sure that you have the tools, the information that you need to be able to run your business, your organization more efficiently, more effectively, so that you are in place to do what you enjoy and help impact other people with that. And so without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Shea. Shea, how are you this morning, or this afternoon? Not this morning, afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, Steve. Good to see you, my friend.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on. As you just heard in the intro,
Yes.
And as you know, we're in this Navigating Opportunity series, and you know, I'm excited to have you on because you and I have had a number of conversations, and the combination of your experience as a CEO for a number of years, your experience with EOS, you have such a toolkit that you have available that you use with different teams and leadership teams of companies and nonprofits. I'm really excited to hear from you in terms of what your experience has been like this year, and how as you're adapting, how you're helping your clients adapt, and really at this stage getting ready for 2021.
Yeah.
And so why don't you just share a little bit about what, coming into this year, what's it been like for you, and what are the adjustments you're making? How are you guiding folks? And so I'm gonna shut up now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I appreciate being here with you today. Thank you very much. The 2020 entrance, we all came into this year with our goals, with our plans, and we're excited. And then all of a sudden, what happened, right? A pandemic happened. And you know what? When you're caught with your pants down like that, you really just have to go back to foundation roots, right? Go back to foundation roots. And one of the things that, I've really been working with my clients and also my business was those foundation roots. But when you have a goal, it doesn't mean the goal goes away, right? It just means you have to reprioritize, and you have to plan a little differently on what you can control, and just focus. And that's what I've done with my clients this past year. That's what I've done with my business this past year. And we're thumbs up, sprinting to 2021.
Absolutely. Well, and as you and I have had conversations throughout this year about how you've been adapting, and you've certainly given me some wise counsel as I look at how we're scaling and adjusting here at Wayfind. And so one of the things that, again, as I mentioned, I love the fact that your experience is you have practical, real world CEO experience. So you're not coming in with just a theory. You have lived and breathed business leadership, leading an executive team. And with traction, and so for some of our listeners, viewers that may not be familiar with this, this book,
Yeah.
Traction by Gino Wickman, is basically, it's a guide on how to run your business. It's as the explanation is the entrepreneurial operating system. It's basically an operating system for your business. It's a 6-part framework. And correct me if I'm calling something incorrectly on this.
Right on, Steve.
It's a 6-part framework for how to run your business. And I'm in the middle of going through this. And again, Shea's given me some really great insight and guidance on how to think about some of these things and how to use some of these tools. So how is this, having a framework? I think for a lot of leaders, business leaders, especially smaller businesses that have grown maybe organically, people don't necessarily have an operating structure for their business. They don't have an operating system. So what have you seen with this framework? How is this type of a framework helping people through what we're experiencing this year? And is that helping people get ready for 2021?
Yes. The interesting thing about that is that businesses, we already have, the frustrations of, control and people and profit and, things working, things not working, those frustrations, exist. And yes, you're correct. I have experienced that. And it is tough when you're going through that. It's painful sometimes. And, having the infrastructure and the tools and actually an implementer coming in, helping with objective facilitation and coaching, it really allows you to, get on track because, business growth, you're going to have evolution and revolution. You're going to hit ceilings all the time. But, the guiding tools in those components allow you to do one of 3 things. You can either break through, to get to the next level of growth, or flatline or fail. And I've really helped my clients this year realize that we are not going to fail. It is about making sure that we are staying on track and we're tweaking. And, really, the facilitation part, I've really challenged my clients this year. It's about, let's dig deeper. We've had an opportunity, this past year to reprioritize, we've had an opportunity to really understand what really matters with family. We've had an opportunity to understand, okay, what may have been important to me in my business has changed, and just really redig on the foundation. And it allows us to do all of that and eliminate those frustrations in general.
Absolutely. So if you would you just take a few minutes and this 6-part framework is, and this really for me, and I've owned several companies, and as my company has been growing this year and as we're scaling, there's been a lot of freedom in discovering this framework, because for a lot of us, we're good at something, so we build a business around it, and eventually we get to a place where we realize, okay, there's more to this than just delivering a particular service. There's a framework, and I think as a lot of people are thinking about 2021 and whether someone's business or nonprofit is growing, whether it's contracting, or whether it's just kind of maintaining, I gotta believe that having a framework is going to be pivotal, essential for most organizations, especially if they do want to be in that place where they can grow.
That's
So
right.
can you give us, for somebody that's like, wow, what is traction? What is EOS?
Yeah.
Can you give just maybe a quick explanation of what those pieces are,
Yeah.
why it's important, and then we can just give some takeaways for our viewers and listeners?
Yes, definitely. It would just be really, really great if at all given times we could, wake up and say, wow, my leadership team is all on the same page. They understand my vision. They understand how to execute on it. Wouldn't that be great, Steve, if that was?
Yes. And I wake up after, that dream of like, oh, if this, and then I wake up and I'm, yeah. Yeah, that would be.
It can be a reality, Steve. It really, really can, because
Yeah.
this infrastructure, the EOS process, is designed to help, leadership teams, first of all, visionaries who have tons and tons of ideas. Visionaries, we need to get that stuff out of your head. You've got to get it articulated and defined, because otherwise the people that we rely so strongly on, they don't really know how to execute unless we can simplify it and articulate it. So, I mean, the very first step of the process is about vision, getting it out of your head, and then getting your leadership team 100% on the same page. And then, in order for us to do anything in our businesses, we are fooling ourselves and doing ourselves a disservice if we feel that, oh, we can do it alone. It starts out as this passion, but, we need our people. So the second component is about people, making sure we have the right folks sitting in the right seats. And if I may, I just want to talk about right folks for a second, right people in the right seats. Is that okay, Steve?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because it's so important, especially, with the past year that we've had. People have been, separated. They've been remote. They haven't had the daily contact that, we are accustomed to when we're in offices. And it's really been an opportunity for us as business leaders to say, you know what really are my core values? And have I been playing those with my people and the folks I count on remotely? How am I staying in touch with them? How am I making sure that they remain the right people to help me execute? So I can keep going on and on, but
no, that's great. That is helpful information, because you're right. I mean, you've got to have the vision. And as Jim Collins talks about, and I think it's some of the same verbiage, you got to have the right people in the right seats.
That's right.
And in fact, I found this, and maybe a little bit small, since this is off of the EOS website.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, you've got this piece up here, which is the vision.
Yes.
And then, the people. And one of the things I'll say this too about the vision, I love the practicality of this tool. So because you have the vision traction organizer, which people can download off of the website, if I'm not mistaken, and get a copy of the book. But it helps give that direction. And as you develop that, again, you've got to have the right people, as you said, the right people in the right seats. Mm-hmm. And so yeah.
And that, thank you for bringing up the model. You are awesome. I mean, when we're talking about, data right now, where is our data going to need to go to get into 2021? We've had a skewed year possibly, and then we've had companies who completely hit the other side with thriving like they've never, ever have before. So data is about, making sure that you're running your business on facts and figures and information, especially as we, go across the threshold of 2021. And, when I'm working with my clients, I'm like, when we start deep diving vision, people, and data, then, everything becomes transparent in your life, in your business, on your team. And you've really got to become great at, solving the issues as they arise, which is the fourth component. And then the process, making sure that all the best stuff that you do in your business is done the right way. And we've had time to get processed this year. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And, of course, traction pulls it all together, because it's about the clarity of the vision and bringing it down and really being able to execute on it, which all of that together holistically allows us to stay focused and break through those ceilings as we experience them.
One of the things that I love about the book and the framework is the realistic understanding that this doesn't happen overnight.
Correct.
And this is something that takes time to implement. So, I think as we think about 2021 and where people are and goals and things along those lines, I think for a lot of people, it probably does start with that vision of where do you want to go? Where where do you want to be? And given how quickly and crazily things have changed this year, I know some people probably think, why do I want to plan ahead even, a full year, maybe in some cases? But by giving that longer term vision of where we want to be in 10 years or 3 years or 1 year, and then breaking it into quarterly chunks, that at least gives people some direction. And so, it's well, as the proverb says, without a vision, the people perish. And so right. I would say, as a practical takeaway for our viewers and listeners, go to the website eosworldwide.com and grab some of the resources. Get a copy of the book. Reach out to Shea. We'll have Shea's website information up here in just a little bit, because this is what Shea does. She helps people implement this framework, developing a vision, helping you put together a plan for your team. And there's some really great tools and ways to do that. The data, you've helped me with a weekly scorecard, and just, keeping up with the things that matter. Yeah. And so now I want to shift gears on you a little bit.
Sure.
I'm not throwing you something that we haven't already talked about, but one of the things that I find interesting as well, Shea, is your vision is bigger than just business. You apply this to your own life.
I do.
And so, and I know when we talked about, getting ready for this, you mentioned, you were the one that brought up and said, well, not just business, but for family life, because this has been a stressful year for families.
Yes.
And whether it's just the spouses who, aren't used to spending this much time together and kind of like, okay, go to your space, I'll go to mine. Or whatever the challenges are, so why don't you share a little bit about what do you tell somebody in terms of how is this applicable to family life?
Yes. And you know what, you couldn't have said that, any better, because one of the things that we have, at our disposal, being an professional implementer, is we talk about the vision traction organizer and getting business all in aligned and on the same page. But we also have this tool in a family vision traction organizer and also a personal vision traction organizer. So you're right. I remember these conversations that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that, you understand what your family's core values are, and you understand, where you want your family to go, not only financially, but with all of the lifetime wish lists and the ideas and really having that clear in your family life and life on top of that. So these tools, yes, when I'm teaching it to leadership teams and businesses, I am teaching from the heart, because I truly use it for my business, and I also use it, in my life. And under one of my, my family core values is unconditional love. That's something that, it doesn't matter what you're going through. Unconditional love will always be given to you. We can get through anything if we come together to solve it. And it's no different when I'm teaching that, in a business. Yeah. Actually, it's even better, because objectively, I get to see things that when you're in the thick of your business, you have blind spots. You don't to really see that. And I'm able to facilitate and objectively probe and ask questions and challenge my leadership teams to get more out of themselves and their business. And, it's so joyful to see, the light bulbs that start to go off and seeing them truly come into their own. Yeah. When business is good and family is good, we should never complain.
So, one of the things that I always appreciate, tools and frameworks and resources that are just applicable just in life in general. And because, as humans, I mean, we do our best to compartmentalize things, but what happens at home influences what happens at work. What happens at work influences what happens at home. We can't just check those things at the door. And so having a framework that somebody can use, as you said, creating core values for your family. Well, that just becomes a way of life. And as a business leader, you think about a business owner, a CEO, or another executive leader, and a nonprofit executive director, having something like that, I think there's an authenticity to leadership that is critical. I think a lot of times it's missing in a lot of spaces. But having something that is if I'm following a leader and I know that leader isn't just talking about this in terms of the business, but I know that that's a part of who they are,
Of course.
I'm a lot more likely to follow that person because there's an authenticity to that.
That's right. It's definitely about walking the talk and leading by example throughout. I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So as we think about 2021, so we have this operating system, this EOS framework that you work with people, you teach it to them, you help their teams implement this. As we've talked about, having something like this for a family, having something objective, something that's bigger, that can be sort of a lighthouse that you can look to when the waves are big and constantly battering us around. But what are some practical things that you are advising your clients as it comes to 2021? What are some of the pearls that you're giving them in terms of things to be mindful of going into this next year?
Yes. One of the things definitely is to just make sure that we've learned our lessons, good and bad, from 2020, and truly, document those items in your business, because you want to now pass that and pay it forward within your organization. So you can avoid others maybe having some of the lessons that you've experienced, especially if you belong to your advisory board or different things like that. So definitely pay attention to the lessons learned, good and bad, and proactively, plan. This could go on for a little longer. So, have you made the plan to, if we have an economic downturn, to make sure that, we planned in the reverse? Of course, we want to keep moving forward, but the probability that this could go longer, is there as well. So let's make sure we proactively plan forward in the reverse. And I do that with my clients with their accountability structure. Another thing is to make sure that we've evaluated all of the relationships in our business, in our life, with our vendors, with our personal and trusted advisors. A lot of businesses, I hate to say it, but I'm gonna be open and honest. A lot of businesses used, furlough to not bring back, people with relationships that, they probably shouldn't have had to begin with. Learn from that. Be willing to deal with the issues. Be vulnerable. Be open. Be honest, and be willing to talk it through.
Yeah, that's good feedback. Learn from it. Don't make the same mistakes. And I think too that's sort of implicit in that is don't assume that you can just go back to the way that things were.
Right.
And because I think, and this is just me, this is my gut, this is not documented anywhere, but just based on experience and observation. I imagine that there are some people who now, they're thinking, okay, well, we have some vaccines on the very near horizon. And so that in a sense, for some people might cause them to think, oh, well, yeah, I probably should do a plan, but we're going to have a vaccine soon. And again, I don't know, but I imagine there might be some people who are, that thought might be creeping into their mind. And so I think your advice, pay attention to what you learned this last year, because nobody can predict the future. There's only one God, and I'm not him. And so I certainly can't forecast it. But do make those plans. And one of the things that I like too, that you've talked about and we've talked about, is it's not just making a growth plan. Mm-hmm. That's the fun plan. The plan that's not any fun is the plan that says, okay, what happens if we have a 25% drop in revenue? What happens if we have a 50% drop in revenue? Let's make those budgets. Let's make those plans. But, I almost guarantee you that the businesses that had those kinds of plans in place this year were able to adjust a lot faster and are in a much healthier place than those that were without. And one thing I want to say real quick, we've got just a couple of minutes here, but I think we'll close out on this. One of the things that I think is important as well for a business owner, CEO, executive director to think about is what kind of leader are you? And because that, I think that in and of itself has a tremendous impact on the lens that you see things through. And that for me was very eye-opening. Is as you were the one that introduced that to me, is that really there are two types of leaders, business owner at the executive level, and you have a visionary and you have the integrator. And the visionary is that big picture, ideas, culture. That's me. I'm a visionary. I love to do the strategies and live with the ideas. And I know it drives some of the people on my team crazy sometimes. Whereas the integrator is the one who looks at those ideas and says, okay, how are we going to execute them? And that's the person that thrives in the details. And
that's me. I'm an integrator. I'm like, let's execute. Let's go. Here's how we're going to do it.
And so, I love that it's not that one is better than the other. It's that both are needed.
Yes. Both. And every person has both of those characteristics and qualities. It's just, which one do you enjoy doing the most? And that's where you land, that Dan said about unique ability. Stay in your unique ability.
Absolutely. And so, man, I have no doubt that we could continue this conversation. I get excited about all this because it's just enjoy the conversation. And two, it's information that's helpful and it's practical. It's not just abstract theory that can't be used. So for
practical, but not necessarily easy. You got to be ready to show up. You've got to approach it to the table as well. So
yeah, you're right. I've got an all-day strategy planning session with my team this next week, and so we're going to be diving in. And yeah, you're right. It's not easy. This simplifies it, but as we know, simple, it's not always easy. And you gotta show up, roll up your sleeves, and jump in. Be willing to be uncomfortable.
That's right. And it's never too late. Right now, it's fourth quarter. Let's hone in. Let's get those plans in place. I'm happy to support or have conversations with anyone. Just, reach out to me. It's about being able to keep small businesses moving forward. That's the economy as a whole.
Absolutely. And so for our viewers, you can see Shea's website on the screen, menageriecoach.com.
Yes.
If you're catching this on the podcast, you can go to menageriecoach.com, MENAGERIE coach, COACH.com. And so Shea, thank you so much for being on today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've learned as we've talked through this, things in there. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go do that. And I need to make sure we incorporate that in our planning session this next week. And so always a joy. Thank you so much for our listeners, our viewers. Make sure you tune in for the podcast. You can catch the podcast on Anchor, on Spotify, Google, Apple, pretty much anywhere that you can catch a podcast. And so we will be taking a little bit of a break. We're going to kind of take the rest of December off as we retool and plan, but we'll plan to be back here hitting the ground running early January with this Friday live stream. And so Shea, thanks for helping us wrap up this Navigating Opportunity series. And everybody have a fantastic Friday afternoon.